Hey guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my home workshop. It's been, nearly a week, 5 or 6 days since I last put a video up. So I apologise to all you regular followers that were kind of getting used to getting a video every day while we were doing the great cleanup and then everything else that was happening. I've had a bit of a rest. I've had a bit of business bookwork to do with regards to moving in with Christine and just a bit of basic stuff, and there hasn't been anything really interesting to film for you. The other thing is I haven't really been back to repairs as such because I've still got my shoulder in a sling, and I'll give you a bit of an update on how that's going. But this video is also going to give you a summary pretty much of how the scrap metal panned out over the course of the great cleanup. Which is, I said I was going to do it, and it's quite interesting to break it down, so I thought I'll give you the figures for anyone that's interested. If you just joined my channel, check out the playlist on the great backyard cleanup that turned into the great cleanup because my shop where I'd been for nearly 20 years has been sold, and I had to get out quickly. So it turned into quite a saga. A lot of you guys liked following it, and it was, even I didn't know how it was going to finish. So I think it was a good series, and I've had a lot comment about it. So let's look at what all that scrap metal. I did keep some ongoing running tallies about how that scrap metal value worked out, but we didn't really break it down to what types of scrap we had. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. The other thing is an update on my shoulder. It's been, again, for those that have been following my channel, it's been 2 weeks since my surgery. I think 2 weeks tomorrow. So I still need to have it in a sling for another 4 weeks. I'll just show you this because Christine has made a sling and it's very comfortable. She based it off the pattern from the one we got from the hospital, and she's actually going to put a video up on her channel. It's Christine's Home Affairs, for those that are interested in making one, who, if you're friendly with your sewing machine. Anyway, it's been 2 weeks since my surgery. Things are going well. The stitches came out. Everyone's pretty happy with the progress. It is very difficult to sleep still. I need the sling on all the time. I'm not allowed to drive. It's going to be a long, slow recovery. And I haven't been sleeping well, so that compounds to I haven't really had the energy to get out and do a lot of stuff and film things for you. But we'll catch up on that eventually. I'm feeling pretty good. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, maybe you'll notice a difference in the footage. I've just got a brand new phone. My old one's here. It was a Samsung S8. I don't know how old it was or is, but it still actually powers up. It's got a cracked screen. It has trouble charging. It runs out of power very quickly. It doesn't have a lot of storage. And I know some of you mentioned we're having a bit of trouble with the audio. So hopefully this one now, which is the current model Samsung, it's a Samsung S22 Ultra, I think. It's a flash looking phone and hopefully it performs well. But just so you know, and if you're running your own YouTube channel or you're thinking of starting a channel, you don't need to go and buy a whole heap of cool camera gear and everything. Yeah, maybe later on we might get into that, but I've built my channel entirely on this old S8 and it's been great. And it was still working, but time to upgrade. So let me know if the video quality and the sound quality is good. Hopefully there's no issues there, and hopefully I can have, well, I know I've got more storage room on the phone, so that should help too. Now, we'll have a look at the scrap metal figures next. What other notes do I have? That's about it. This video was really just an update and to get back in touch with you guys after being away without leave for nearly a week. We'll have a look at these scrap metal figures and just see how that all boiled up. Okay, here's the list I collated from all my dockets from the scrapyard. Hang on, we'll just move the light over here a bit. So I sold, let's go straight to the totals. Most of you will know this that have been watching my channel. I sold over 20 tonne of scrap metal out of the backyard of my shop, took it to Melbourne in my van. We brought back over $33,000 in the basically about 5 months cleaning the yard up. I did one load March last year when I had no idea that I was going to be having to leave my shop, and the prices were starting to go up, and as it turned out the prices reached a nice record high in many cases, and I was able to capitalize on that and cashed in. Let's have a look at the breakdown. The pressing steel, I did 1 or 2 loads of that early, and the last of the pressing steel I ended up just taking it at the transfer station. But we did nearly 2 tonne of that. When I first started, it was about 22 cents a kilo. I think the last load was about 28, and then it dropped back again. So not a lot of value in the pressing steel, and I'm not going to save that anymore. I don't have a yard or the space to do it. The heavy melt in-size steel is anything larger than 1/4 inch and less than 1 metre. So it has to be thick. It's obviously not light gauge. We had 7.5 tonne of that, and most of that was packed in 44-gallon drums, and a lot of it had been in my yard at the shop for many years. I was really fortunate to capitalise on the price, and I got almost 500 a tonne for nearly all of that. I think it dropped back a little bit at the end, but we got almost $4,000 for that heavy steel. Again, I'm probably not going to save that in the future. Well, I'm not, because it's too hard to work, and now that I've had shoulder problems, and I'm likely to have more because my left shoulder isn't too flash either, I'm going to cross the heavy steel off the list, and I just won't be dealing in that anymore. Stainless steel was a disappointment really of the year, but we didn't have too much of it, because when I cashed that in, I only got $1 a kilo. Now, it was up to, I think, almost $3 a kilo at one stage, but it was a real peak, and then it dropped quickly. Aluminium I did pretty well on. Most of that I got, I think, around about $1.50. We had domestic, which was mostly saucepans and you know, sheet aluminium and that sort of stuff. Over 1/2 tonne of that. The cast aluminium, I'd had a couple of big loads of that. And I may still save a bit of cast aluminium, particularly because they did pay me cast alley price, which was about $1.50 at the time, for die cast, which is quite heavy. So we did get a pretty good return from that. So I think if it's not a big hassle to strip it, I think I will keep a little bit of cast alley and perhaps cash it in fairly regularly so we don't get such a big pile. Extruded aluminium was paying up around $3 a kilo at one stage. I think it looks like I averaged just over 2. And again, that's probably not that hard to save, but I'm certainly not going to worry about saucepans and bulky light stuff like your domestic. Now, Irony Alley is also extremely bulky, and I really just ditched a lot of old lawnmowers and things in that. We had not far off a tonne of it, and it was paying pretty good, but I'm not going to save that again. I don't have the storage room. Batteries, we did a few loads of batteries, over 1/2 tonne. They weren't paying all that well, but they're pretty easy to, you know, they're not bad scrap value because they don't take up a lot of space, and you don't have to spend any time, you know, stripping them. They just basically load them up and take them down. I won't save up a big pile of them, but I will save them, and then when I'm taking other stuff, I'll just throw them in straight away. Low-grade wire, that's wire with plugs on and very fine wire and low-value stuff. Didn't have very much of that, and I probably won't even save that. That might have been even things like Christmas lights. Data cable wasn't too bad, and it was paying up to $3 a kilo at one stage. Dropped back to about $2.20, I think, towards the end. Easy to store that in the wheelie bin. Same with the PVC coated wire, which is mostly power cords. Look at the value return we got on that. We had almost a tonne of it over all our trips. It's over $3,500. And that's just the cords off appliances with the plugs chopped off. And any wire I get out of skips, like household wiring. So I think I've got room to store my wheelie bins. I'm always going to save that. That's going to be a good value return. Electric motors. Now, we had a lot of these, but this does also include the transformers. They paid the same. So even light ballasts out of fluoro lights, transformers out of microwaves, any e-waste I'm scrapping, and of course any electric motors right up to fairly large size ones that took 2 of us to lift. Over 3 tonne of them, and they averaged, looks like they averaged just over $1 a kilo. They dropped back a bit towards the end, but I was getting a pretty good price for most of them. So we had almost $3,500 of electric motors over time. I think I will still save them because they don't take up much space and they will stack quite nicely in milk crates. Fridge and air conditioner compressors. They paid really well. They dropped back a fair bit in price lately, but I'm not going to save them again because, well, I don't usually get them, and you're not really allowed to cut a compressor out of a fridge because you're going to release the gas. So I probably won't be selling those anymore. Starter motors and alternators, I didn't realise at the start, but they pay a better price for those than they do for electric motors, so any of those we'll put aside. Air conditioners, I sold a few of them that still had the gas in. Interestingly, they were worth selling because I got $156 back on those. If I had have taken those, and I think there was about 4 of them, maybe 5, if I had to take them to the local transfer station, they actually charge me to get rid of them because of the gas in them. So if I do turn up any of those, I'll probably do a scrap run and get rid of them down there. At least I get some return, and it saves me spending to get rid of them up here. Brass was my big nest egg. Over the years, I'd saved a lot of brass, 1,200 kilos, or a bit more, almost $10,000 for brass. Again, I was really fortunate that most of that I sold, I was getting about $8 a kilo, which is the absolute top price. I notice it's back to about $6 now. Whether it'll ever go up again, I don't know, but I was so fortunate to get a good return on my brass stash. Radiators, I think I'll always save because they stack nice and neat. The copper brass ones, we got a few $100s back, 300. The copper aluminium ones, about the same. The irony ones, normally I would strip them, but I just ran out of time and I threw in 2 or 3 of them. They still had the steel brackets on the side, only 10 kilos worth, but we still got some money back. Copper wire, burnt meaning dirty or soldered or tinned or even lacquered. I'll always save that. There's good return on copper. Milbury wire, which is the cleanest you can get. Didn't end up with a lot of weight of that because I hadn't really got around to stripping a lot of wire right back to the copper. But still, certainly worth saving. Takes up very little room for good value. Number 2 copper was mostly just old water pipes and things, but also some large hot water tanks and things. You know, copper is always worth saving. I'm certainly not going to knock that back. Nearly $4,000 in copper there. And the candy copper is, again, very clean, but it's usually more pipe and sheet copper rather than wire. Good return on the copper. So that's how our totals panned out. And that's how I'm thinking for the future. I'm not going to do anything that's large, bulky, hard on my shoulders or my back, and doesn't pay a lot. Stainless steel, I'm not going to save at all again. It just wasn't worth the effort. Domestic aluminium, as I said, it takes so much of it to make a decent weight. The cast, I wasn't going to, but I'm changing my mind a bit there because of the fact that they will buy the die cast or the cast zinc as cast ele, and you do get a lot of that in housings and things, and it can weigh quite heavy. So there we go. That's the wash up of all the scrap I took to Melbourne in really only probably, well, there was one load early last year, and the rest of it was really in 4 or 5 months as we did a big clean up, and I'm still living off that figure. My bank account was very healthy for a while. It's still quite good. So that's been a nice addition to my finances and cleaning up the yard at the same time. So that was pretty good. Now, just on the yard total, that's about 20 tonne we took out of the yard. I would estimate with the firewood we gave away, there would have been 3 or 4 big loads of firewood. There was some pressing steel that I took out to the local transfer station. There was a lot of other stuff went out of that yard that I sold, building materials and whatnot. I would estimate that we had 30 to 35 tonne of stuff in that backyard of the shop. And if you're new to my channel and just watching this, go back at the start of the playlist and have a look at what the yard looked like. And it's amazing how much weight and stuff was in that yard. It's pretty amazing the return we got as well. So there you go, guys. That's the wash up of the scrap metal dealings that I've done this year. I'm probably not going to be doing a scrap run for a while, let's be honest. I've cleared out all my stocks. Once we get back into buying house lots and shed lots, which is going to be a while because of my shoulder situation, I will always accumulate more scrap, and we will do a scrap run down in the future. It won't be the same quantities, but who knows? You know, once you're a scrappy, you always dabble in scrap. And I'm going to get back more into e-waste, scrapping at e-waste items as well, so that generates scrap on its own as well. So we will do some in the future, but there certainly won't be any in the short term. You know, it took 20 years to acquire all that, or most of it. And a few of you had asked whether I was going to sell it or always just going to hoard it, and the fact that the shop was being sold actually forced my hand. Well, as I said, I did do one load March last year, and I had no idea the shop was going to be sold. So I was starting to get the yard organised. The whole point of the Great Backyard Cleanup series was to transform the yard into a very efficient scrapping and processing yard, and I was planning to do regular loads to the scrapyard. It's just that it all had to happen much quicker than I'd planned. But as I said, I was very fortunate that I topped the market with most of the prices, and it's really, it's been a wonderful nest egg to cash in. Rightio, so thanks for watching, guys. What we're going to do next, I am going to do some unboxing videos when I get a bit more motivated. I've been working in my workshop out here, just getting a little bit of stuff organised. I'm going to do a couple of repair projects that I think I can manage one-handed. This clock here, you may remember from a video series we did and an auction we went to just before we found out the shop had to be sold. And I got this really cheap at an auction. I'll link the auction link up the top corner now. It's a Junghan Starburst clock from the 1960s, quite a valuable clock. I got it extremely cheaply, and it has some corrosion in the battery terminal. So I think I can save the terminal. I think I might try and dismantle it and maybe clean it up and maybe nickel plate the terminal and repair it. Hopefully the rest of the movement's fine. So I might do a video on that one soon. I might get into that in the next day or so. And the other project I'm going to do is also a Junghan's clock, being German. It's a more modern one. This is a Junghan's quartz, which means it's a battery movement. Well, the other one was a battery movement as well, but this is a quartz movement. And I put a new battery in that just today and it's not working. I think it's worth trying to see if we can fix it. I haven't had one of these quartz movements apart before, so we'll investigate that together, see if we can fix it. Being a German-made clock, it's quite a nice style. It's got a brass surround. It's a little bit tarnished, but I think that kind of looks kind of, you know, it's aged. It's aged appropriately. I think it's well worth trying to fix. So we might do a video on that as well, see if we can sort that one out. So a couple of clock videos coming up soon. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video very soon. Bye for now.